His name is Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Was that him?
My mother, she wonders if you have brought your famous hat.
The deer stalker. I've never worn one.
And a pipe.
I prefer a cigar.
Did you do the thing?
What thing?
The cane shows the marks of a dog's teeth. The wood is from an island southwest of Madeira. That thing.
That was an embellishment of Dr. Watson. If I ever write a story myself, it will be to correct the myriad misconceptions created by his imaginative license.
Murder, Mr. Kelmott. Murder.
I didn't know you wrote stories.
I decided to get it right before I die.
You're not going to die. I had a great uncle who lived to be 102.
What are the odds that you would know two men who would live that long?
Well, I didn't actually know him. We're about to start an investigation.
If you need suspects, you know where to find me.
A man comes to Baker Street, you say you've come about your wife. How could you tell?
When you're a detective and a man comes to visit you, it's usually about his wife.
My Anne has changed. Yesterday, I followed her.
It is highly poisonous. A drop will more than suffice. Planning an escape with the mystery man. What possible motive could you have had?
I demand you produce her.
Oswald, it is a wish to know if you are this man's wife.
No.
Voila!
Now, Roger's been a help to you. He's always been clever.
It's evidence.
Now we must solve it. A convincing set of circumstances signaling your intention to murder your husband.
Mr. Holmes.
Thank you. You guys really pack the house. You want me to grab that for you?
Do you want to put it on?
I'll put it on. I got it.
Oh, no, I meant on you.
Oh, and me. I'm okay.
Go on, have a go.
Okay. What do you guys think?
Very good.
Wow. Thanks so much for being here, guys. This is incredible. What a house. First up, you are playing Sherlock Holmes here. I've read that you felt no interest in sort of thinking about the history of Holmes and how people have played him before. You looked at it as this one particular story, right?
Yes. I mean, when you get a script as good as this one, you don't want to start doing all sorts of research and trying to improve it because it wasn't improvable. So the fact that so many other actors have played Sherlock Holmes, beginning with William Gillette, an American, who did the first stage version, and he also did a silent movie playing Sherlock. From him onwards, right up to Robert Downey, there have been versions of the character. This version is different from all the rest, in that he's so old, in that we find out about he's got a heart, which he doesn't seem to have in the original stories, and so I didn't get concerned that so many other actors had had a success. Mind you, if you played Hamlet or Gertrude or Ophelia, you get used to the idea, don't you, of playing other people's parts. It's so no, that wasn't a concern.
So when you had interpretations of the role or different ideas of how the performance should be, you know, you or the director Bill Clinton never talked about the history of Holmes or anything like that?
But you know, we all know about Sherlock Holmes. I mean, can you remember the day you first heard about Sherlock Holmes? No, you've always known about him, like Santa Claus, Father Christmas. He's always been in our lives. So we've all got a sense of what he's like, and that's a conceit of our film. We all think we know Sherlock Holmes, the guy who's all mind, no passion, all detection, brilliance. We can never be like him. Well, this version is that, no, that's not what the real man was like at all. And the assumption is that Sherlock Holmes was a real person. This is not a fictional character. So it plays into the Conan Doyle man, but develops on from then. And we discovered there was a moment when Sherlock nearly fell in love, which has been bothering him for 30 years. And that's the mystery he's trying to solve.
Now, Laura, I've read that you were...
And you are not the love interest in this show. It's amazing.
Not looking like that, I'm not.
You were a massive Sherlock Holmes fan, right? I had read that since a little girl. You were kind of obsessed with Sherlock Holmes.
My father gave me the complete works of Sherlock Holmes when I was, 8 or 9. And I became, rabidly obsessed for many years. I had a sweatshirt that said Sherlock Holmes on the back. I collected Sherlock Holmes memorabilia.
A pipe?
No, I have William Gillette did an advertisement for cigars, and there's a beautiful old cigar top that I have that's framed. It's in my office. I've had it. I've traveled with it my whole life, so I was thrilled.
Graphic design on the Sherlock Holmes sweatshirt? Did it just say Sherlock
Holmes?
It
was like one of those, in the 70s there were the big sweatshirts, and you had the felt letters, and it just said Sherlock Holmes on the back. It was very, typical of a 10-year-old, but I loved it. It was a beloved garment.
Did that ever make you sort of seek out or want to play a detective at all over the course of your career?
It didn't, but I love detectives, and I love the sort of literary detectives, like Miss Marple, Hercule Poirot, Sherlock Holmes. They are fascinating people because they're so psychologically complicated and brilliant. And they tend to be loners. They tend to be, romanticized in a way that I find, they're characters who I want to spend time with.
So was it your sort of admiration and your young love for Sherlock Holmes that made you want to be a part of this film outside of being able to work with Bill Condon again, who I know directed On the Big C, and you were in the Fifth Estate with?
He directed me in Kinsey as well. Our director I've worked with about 5 times, and he's one of my favorite people to work with, and I'll do anything that Bill asks me to do. So the fact that he asked me to do this, and that Ian was involved. And Ian and I have been sort of fond acquaintances for over a decade, but have never really been able to spend a lot of time together. So now that I can sort of claim him as a real friend now was really sweet.
We had the most glorious summer. I mean, you've been watching Wimbledon, I suppose. I mean, Sherlock Holmes and Wimbledon are 2 most famous things that ever came out of England.
Well, Peter Pan, too.
Oh, yes, Peter Pan. Anyway, we had a wonderful summer for weather last year, and there we were on the south coast. Wonderful, wasn't it, in that old house?
The house that we filmed in is it's a bed and breakfast, actually, called Wickham Manor, I believe. It's right outside of Rye. Yeah. And every day we'd arrive at this idyllic setting, and we filmed most of the movie actually in this house. So we would arrive, and ducks and lambs and chickens and all those animals would come greet you every morning, and it was really heavenly.
And it was the house where William Penn of Pennsylvania had been brought up. So it was an American connection, yeah.
How long were you there shooting?
I think it was 5 weeks all told. Was it about that?
Yeah. It's called an independent movie, which in translation means it was a cheap movie. Which being translated further is that the actors didn't really get paid very much money. But like many small things, like diamonds, it's very, very, very beautiful and precious, I think.
Ian, what did you think of a character who's discovering his heart, discovering the emotionality of his being later on in life? When do you feel like you discovered that, and did you relate to that at all?
I'm 76, and you will find that as the years roll on, you do ponder the past, hopefully with pleasure, but regrets. I've had a few. There are moments in your life that you think, oh, if I'd done something different, if I'd made that phone call, if I'd made that date, if I'd sent out that invitation, some relationship might have matured in a way that it didn't. And so that occurs to me about my own life. And of course, Sherlock is having that big time.
Well, he's sort of having this experience where the more that he reflects on his loss of memory, the more he becomes somewhat sentimental about his memories, right? His memories no longer maintain just a perspective of logic. They become something a bit more emotional for him.
Yeah, we discovered that the man who's lived entirely through his mind actually has a heart. So on top of everything else, it's an optimistic story, and I think you like Sherlock Holmes more at the end than do at the beginning, and indeed your character too. I mean, they both mature, don't they? And as their hearts soften.
You get to play with some bees a lot in this movie, right? Did you get stung?
No, I did not, and I was very nervous about the bees, and I said to Bill Conlon, this is all absolutely wonderful. Laura and a cast, I may say, of very sprightly old friends, stalwarts of British films, playing supporting parts. But there are these bloody bees. And I said, well, look, I am not going to put myself in any sort of danger. And Bill nodded, but didn't say that'll be all right. And he did put me in considerable danger. But I had a bee handler teach me all about bees, and I could bore you for a long time about them. I'm a huge fan of bees now. And they were very friendly to me, as I was to them, and I was not stung, nor was anybody else, nor was a bee harmed in the making of this film. No. We did kill a wasp, but I think that's allowed.
Laura, did you have to get near the bees at all?
No, fortunately, I didn't have to go near them. I was very much on the periphery, and I'm very grateful for that.
So you didn't? Would you have gone near them if you had to?
No.
Just the thought right now is not doing it for you.
No, thank you. No.
But if you think about it, without bees, we wouldn't be here. Plants don't grow without bees. That's how it's been organized. And it's a dangerous situation. Bees are dying out, and they get diseases, and they have to be imported. Fortunately, they breed very quickly. But no, we have a lot to thank the bees for, apart from honey.
Does it help when you're making a film, an independent film, you're shooting in 5 weeks, you're shooting kind of quickly, that you're working with someone that you've always wanted to work with, who's an acquaintance of yours, and you're also working with Bill, a director that you've worked with, I think you said 5 times. Is there a shorthand? Is there just more of a friendliness on set?
No, absolutely there is. And particularly if you're working with someone who's from the theater, as you are, there's a common language and an understanding of what's expected and how to jump into a scene. And it does make you feel that there's it is a real shortcut.
What's that common language for someone?
You discover that without particularly knowing each other very well, you actually are related. I mean, the experience is common to us both of putting on plays, but also being in films as well. Yes, I never went into my trailer and thought, what's this woman doing? No, what this woman was doing was what I expected her to do. She was as puzzled and as excited as I was, and we went about it all in the same way, didn't we? Yeah.
So is that a commonality that you find with someone who does theater, the difference between someone who does theater and film rather than someone who just does film, is that a theater actor's intentions are a bit more clear for the actors?
Well, we're not stars, we're actors. Whether we're film or stage actors, I don't think matters really, but it's the acting that we like to do, isn't it? Rather than the starring.
Laura, is that it for you, working with a theater actor rather than what you get from working with someone who does theater as well?
No, I love working with anybody as long as they're good. You know, they're the people who have just come up and worked exclusively in film have an understanding of that medium that I will never have. They understand it in their bones in a way that I can only envy and I marvel at. And people who go back and forth between theater and film, you can see people sort of testing the boundaries. How small can I be? How big can I be without overburdening the medium? You know, and I love then going back to the theater and figuring out how small can I be on stage, and then figuring out how big can I be on film, and figure out where the boundaries are before it stretches too much.
I was looking at a little bit on YouTube of William Gillette, this actor who created Sherlock Holmes for the first time outside the pages of the book. And he made this film at a time when most actors in film had only ever acted in the theatre and therefore were still, for the camera that was this close, acting for an audience that was far away. In other words, overacting. And William Gillette was not. He was a born film actor, although he'd spent all his life in the theatre. Of course, because film had only just been invented. But for students of acting, have a look at William Gillette in the little snippets you can see of him being very delicate, very believable.
I'm curious when the two of you found, both coming from the theater, when the two of you found in your career that you were hitting your stride in acting in films, that you finally really understood how to perform for the camera.
I haven't gotten there yet. I don't
I
think.
don't know.
Nor me.
I mean, I think you always feel like you haven't quite gotten there. There are moments where I think it comes from the enjoyment of it, that you think, oh, I'm really enjoying this, and that's a good sign. But I don't think you ever feel that you know what you're doing. And if you do have a sense that you really know what you're doing, then I think you're really doomed. Then I think you're in trouble. I think you always sort of have to approach it with the sense of, I don't know what I'm doing. This is all new. How do I do this? How do I do it with the person who I'm working with? How do I incorporate the environment, the story, the text, the lighting? How do I help sort of tie all this together?
In other words, it's like life. Hello.
Oh.
And it's like life. I mean, do you ever feel, oh, I've cracked it. I've cracked life. I know about relationships. No. How to do a deal? No. Nobody knows what they're doing, really. But everyone's trying to do it.
Do you find at 76 years old that you have a clearer perspective? Do you like how long I held on to that question? You have a clearer perspective, or, not to say that you get it and you understand all of it, but you understand it a little bit better?
Life?
No.
I live on the banks of the River Thames in London, and each day the tide comes in 20 feet and it goes out 20 feet. And I see that happen every day of my life when I'm there, and I don't understand it, and I don't want to understand it really. It just happens, and it's never the same because the sky's always different. How can you be prepared and say, I know what it's like living with that view? Because it's always different. But isn't that life? It's always different. It's always tripping you up. That's it. No, I'm not. I don't know a thing about anything.
I think things can feel familiar.
Familiar, yeah.
There's a sense of ritual and routine, and you have a sense of sort of knowing your own geography sometimes. But it's, and I get this question a lot with when you're on stage, how do you do a play over and over and over and over again? Isn't it boring? Isn't it the same? And it's never the same. I mean, it has a sort of, it's charted out, and you can feel in your bones like how the music of the piece goes, but it's always very different.
You have a different audience, you have a different mood that you have that day, you have a different energy level, then you're trying to bring it to the right energy level, but maybe it's off. I mean,
you're
I can't
24 hours older than when you did it
That's
before.
right.
Absolutely. Do you find that ability to sort of, as you said, see the tide, see the ocean, know that life is different all the time, has what led you to be able to find something like Gandalf and Lord of the Rings, and just to be able to kind of go with that? I mean, that's an incredible part that charts, 10, 15 years at this point.
I don't understand that question. Anyway, you brought Gandalf in. That's good. Gandalf
I found a segue.
is more of a segue than a question, perhaps.
I think most people would be terrified of a part like that, of embodying a part for that long and worry about being typecasted. But you seem to roll with it.
Yeah. No. Gandalf. I've said it often, and I think it'll happen. When I die, if I have a gravestone, it's going to say, "Here lies Gandalf. He came out." That sort of sums up my. It sort of sums up my life, and I'm extremely grateful to Gandalf. Extremely grateful. Not only did it take me to New Zealand and some wonderful people there over a long period of time, and I have no regrets about that at all, it's also given me an audience. And little children want to meet Gandalf. And they don't meet Gandalf, they meet me. And there's never any confusion. When I went to see Father Christmas, Santa Claus, in the shop, the department store, at Christmas time at home, I knew that wasn't Father Christmas. The real Father Christmas was far too busy getting ready for Christmas. This was his representative, and I feel that's what I'm. I'm Gandalf's representative. And it's so engaging for a man of my age who doesn't have his own children or grandchildren to meet lots of people who wouldn't mind being my grandchild. So it's absolutely adorable. And next time I meet Bennett Armistead, we can talk about these things. I hope you'll introduce him to Lord of the Rings as early as possible.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah, all right.
Laura, so many parts that you've had over the course of your career, I brought up just in the green room. You Can Count on Me. I told you it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But not just that, so many parts, you bring such a soulfulness, your performances are so deep, and I'm wondering, do you learn things from your characters over the years, characters that you've embodied? Do you learn things and apply them to your own life at all, or do you embody these characters, finish up, and then move on to the next one?
It depends. Some of them do sort of, you have a very intense experience sort of delving into a world and getting to know a character, and then you do leave it because you're on to the next thing. But then there's some characters that do sort of hang around a little bit in the back of your brain. The characters that you admire, or the ones who are so crazy that they're so entertaining. But I think Abigail Adams has certainly, the strength that woman had and what it was to live in that period of time. I find myself sort of thinking about her, but and then every once in a while something will fly out of my mouth that will sound like a character that I played a long time ago, and it'll sort of take me by surprise. So I think they live in you in a way. I think they hibernate in you.
Relating to what you've just said, the other thing about acting is that, of course, you're unlikely to be any good in the part unless you're putting yourself into it. So it isn't that you're not separated from the character you're playing. You're part of him or her. And that's all I've got to say.
So would you say a part of you is Gandalf?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I'm a smoker.
Let's take some questions. Do we have any questions from people in the audience here?
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
I'm a big fan. Thank you so much. This is like a dream come true. Then I love, Magneto. You didn't say Magneto. She was super fantastic in X-Men.
Oh.
Yeah.
Then I love Love Actually and Truman Show.
Okay.
So you mentioned Bill Condon. He's a great director. Right? But who else? You work with really great, like Peter Weir or Peter Jackson. Then which movie was really fun to make? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, 1 second.
Was that a question? Was that a question as well?
I think the question is what other directors have you worked with that you like outside of the ones maybe that he named?
Well, I've worked with a lot of wonderful theatre directors who you won't know of. Tyrone Guthrie had the biggest impression on me when I was a young man. He was the great Shakespeare director of his time. Oh, I don't know.
Well, we both worked with Richard Eyre.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Ian just did a production of The Dresser with Richard, and I did a production of The Crucible in a movie with him as well called The Other Man.
Yes.
So he's certainly
a
good one.
And my ex, Shaw Matthias, who I seem to work with all the time, and I did Godot and No Man's Land here with him last year.
Your performance in Godot, your friendship with Patrick Stewart ended up becoming...
Remind me who he is. Patrick...
oh, yes. You guys break up? What's that?
What?
Are you surprised that your friendship became so popular on the internet?
No, because we'd organised it all. We don't like each other, really, but... well, it was Lady Stewart's idea. Sunny Ozell, the singer, she understood that if she took some snaps around New York, they'd find their way onto the social media, and so they did. I think more people saw those than came to see the plays, actually, which wasn't the point at all. Yes. Well, I don't know. For people of my generation to dabble in all this new technology and realize how immediately you can reach people, like-minded people who might be as interested in the film you're making as you were making it yourself, or the play, is thrilling. In the old days, you used to throw out publicity into the air and hope that it was noticed, but now you can target it, and that's a useful form of communication. So we were trying to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Next question over here.
Last time I was this close to you, you were left hanging in the theater. My question is, would you consider doing a children's Saturday morning cartoon show?
Someone's got a pitch, maybe a script over here. What's that?
Yeah, I would. I like every sort of entertainment that involves acting, and I think I've just done something like that. I can't remember now. I've just filmed with Bill, which you didn't, alas.
No, I did not.
The Beauty and the Beast, the Disney remake of the animated version, but there's a lot of animation in it, and that'll end up eventually on kids' television in the morning, won't it? So, get them young, you know. I mean, you don't have to teach any child to be interested in storytelling, do you? I mean, that's the basis of nursery rhymes and late night stories and all that, and the first books that they ever read, the first things they see on television. And so get them young, and they'll maybe stay with you for the rest of their lives, I hope.
I will love Gene Wilder for the rest of my life because of Willy Wonka. I mean, there are people like that who do, you know, there are movies and television shows that you see, I'm sure you all have them as well, that gives you such pleasure and such joy and sort of opens up a sense of imagination when you're young. And those people, you know, God bless them, I'm sure it's a tremendous responsibility for them to bear, but they mean an enormous amount to you.
What was the first storytelling that you were given? Was it from a book, or was it a film or the theatre?
You know, it had to have been books. I think Santa Claus. I think that's the first sort of character that I
Pity
really...
to start with a lie, isn't it?
Yeah. What?
A lie.
What? What?
Laura, you just had a child last year, right?
I did.
Have you started planning what stories you're excited to share with your child? What movies? What books?
Oh, sure. And then there's stories and books that sort of come to you that you have no choice about. Books that are given to you that all of a sudden take on a whole life of their own. And but of course, there's a lot to look forward to.
Do you have that fear that I imagine someone who is in the arts? I mean, I know I have that fear with my child that at a certain point they're just not going to like the films or the books. I'm like, please, you have to love this. Yeah. They're like, no, I hate it.
We'll see. You know, it's amazing. You know, when you have a child to see, you know, your expectations are completely shattered in every direction. You love them more than you thought you would. They delight you more than you thought they would. They surprise you in ways that are incalculable. And
does he like anything or not like something that's
he loves
the
to
reverse
read.
With you?
No, he loves to read in a way that makes me very, very happy. He brings books and puts them in my hand.
But is there some food that he doesn't like which you do like, and vice versa?
Not yet.
Ah.
Not yet.
Okay.
But I'm sure it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
Everything so far, you're on the same page.
So far, so good. I mean, I'm going to enjoy it while I have it because I know it's not going to last long.
We have a question right here.
Hi, Sir McKellen. I'm sure you know you helped my generation of gay men by being an out, proud actor in famous roles. Do you realize that those of us who have children who are not gay, you're also a huge help? My almost teenage son knows that the actor who played Gandalf and Magneto is an out, proud gay man. That helps him. Do you realize it's a whole other generation that you're helping?
Yeah. That's not why you do it, of course. I mean, you come out for selfish reasons and good reasons, and your life has changed for the better immediately. But if you're in public life, of course, there are reverberations. And I just wish when I was growing up there'd been some positive images that I could have held on to. And I go around schools quite a lot in the UK and encouraging people to be nice to each other. And kids have no problem with the notion of homosexuality. They just take it as a fact of life, which of course it is. And that's partly because there are people in public life who are happy to identify themselves as gay. But you can never say to someone in public life, whether they're a politician or a priest or an actor, you've got to come out for the good of the world. No, you've got to come out for your own sake first.
Did you experience any negative reverberations or anything after you came out?
My film career really took off after I'd told everybody that I was gay.
Is that true?
Yeah. Absolutely true.
That's unbelievable.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, when I got cast as Gandalf, there were messages. We can't have a gay actor. It can't be Gandalf the gay. But it turned out that it could. And sexuality has nothing to do with Gandalf's personality at all. So maybe it's because I've played those sort of parts where people don't romanticize. But, yeah, no, it's such nonsense. I don't know about you, but I fancy straight men. I fancy straight women, I fancy lesbians, I fancy gay men. And when it comes to who's playing what part, I don't really care. I mean, are they any good at acting is the judgment I'm making, and are they affecting me? And I'm not going to be affected by what they get up to in private. It's all such a nonsense, and hopefully it's an old-fashioned nonsense, and that most people listening to this won't know what on earth we're talking about, because it belongs to times gone by.
Absolutely, 100%. Next question. Hey.
Hi, this question is for both of you. I'm just wondering if you think that there are any notable differences between how British actors and American actors approach a script and start to work and start to really get to know a character?
Well, the only thing that I've noticed is most British actors start in the theater, whereas in the United States now, there's an enormous, because television and film has been, even though it's a baby industry, relatively speaking, there are a lot of people who just go right to television and film. So there's a relationship to text that the British actors tend to respect that some American actors, not all, but some are interested in other things. So there is British actors and a certain population of American actors tend to start with story first, as opposed to, wanting to grab onto character first or image first, or not that it's bad, it's just a different way of doing things.
There's also more of an apprenticeship program in the UK when it comes to acting, right? Am I incorrect in making that assumption?
Well, I think also everything is changing so much now. I mean, we're in such a unbelievable time as far as what the internet has done, what television exploding into a gazillion channels has done, what independent film has done, what it's almost like you can't categorize actors anymore, like this is this type of actor, that, because there's so many different colors. It's not just black or white anymore. When it used to be very easy to be like, oh, they're from the theater, oh, they're from television, oh, they're from film, oh, they're American, oh, they're British. And now it's so global. Literally everything is so global, and everyone is,
I'll make a generalization on the lines of your question, is that American actors work much harder at being an actor than we do.
Really?
Oh.
You really think so?
Well, I mean, how many times you go to a Broadway show and in playbill people tell you who they're currently studying with, and that these aren't necessarily beginners. I don't know any British actor who would confess to still studying acting once they've left drama school. We're just doing it as well. And frankly, I think we should be a bit ashamed of ourselves. I think you're much, much more diligent as a race. But that aside, these divisions don't really make much sense. And most British actors are totally in awe of American actors.
Laura,
on film.
Do you still study with a teacher?
Not with a teacher, but I do. I'm sort of constantly have my hands in something.
You see?
I'm either reading something or listening to something or going online or,
So you're still a student in your personal life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
What do you think that brings for you as an actor when you go into a role, maybe in this role as Mrs. Monroe? What is
well, the hope is that you're just evolving. The hope is that you keep learning, and you learn a lot by watching other people. I mean, it's fascinating to watch other people who are really good at what they do and the choices that they make. And because as an actor, I know what they're going through, either if they're on set or on stage. I can see like the obstacles that they had to deal with, or and I find that incredibly liberating and exciting to watch someone who really knows what they're doing.
And when you watch Laura Linney work, which I've fortunately been able to do at close quarters, my goodness, you think she's brilliant. She's got it all worked out. She knows exactly what she's going to do. And I haven't a clue. I don't even know the lines properly. She's absolutely on top of her game, and my God. And then she does it in front of you and all that's put aside. But on the basis of all that certainty, you then improvise. Well, that's a lesson. And that's what I would like to be able to do. So when you've written your book on acting, I'm going to buy it. But I don't need to, because I've seen you do it.
One more question? We have
time for one more question. Okay, thank you. This is for the both of you, but inspired by Sir Ian's owning of a pub, and I hear you're a notorious man for trivia. So So the two of you have this wonderful catalogs of these brilliant and fascinating characters. If you could choose one character that you've played previously to join you on your trivia team, who would you choose?
To join on the trivia team. Is that the question?
Which character of yours would be best at trivia?
Is that the question? No.
Yeah, I think that's...
Is this question too trivial for you?
No. I'm just trying to. I'm trying to think. I played a high-ranking official in the Fifth Estate, so I think probably someone who worked in government and who knew geography and
probably wouldn't do well in the pop culture
all
section.
That's okay. But I think probably her.
And I'll take Gandalf the Gay, who's 7,000 years old and so knows an awful lot of things.
Guys, the film comes out this weekend. Mr. Holmes comes out this weekend, correct?
Yes.
It does, yes. All over the United States. And not in enough cinemas to begin with, but once it's popular there, as it has been in the UK, it'll roll out and be everywhere. So keep a lookout for it.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for watching on AOL Build. Thank you so much, guys.